Today, let's talk about three of my biggest, I hate to use the word regrets, but that's what I'm going to use. Things I would do differently when planning for early retirement that I'm learning now that I actually am. And I also want to share with you, if you stick to the end, the two greatest decisions I made along the path to early retirement. Hey everybody, it's David from David in Progress, where we talk about financial independence and retiring early from the perspective of someone who's actually doing it. If you're new to my channel or you don't know my story, I just want to thank you so very much for coming by here. I was laid off of my job of 27 years in December of last year, and for this year, 2024, we have decided to give early retirement a try. My wife has left her job as well. She was working part-time and has joined me. And the purpose of this channel is to share with you our experience in this year of early retirement. We've committed to a full year. I want to tell you the things that are going well and also the things that maybe I recommend to you that you would do differently. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for sharing. Most of all, I just really want to thank you for the comments that you leave and the discussions that those trigger. One of the things that is incredibly important is managing your income and your taxes during this time when you are bridging between whatever age you are now at early retirement and when you qualify for Social Security and Medicare. For me, I'm getting ready to turn 57, so I have a pretty long bridge. That is 5 years to reach 62, where I could potentially file for Social Security, and even longer for when I turn 65 and can get Medicare. During the in-between time, what I'm doing is working really hard to manage my total income to keep it at a very low threshold. And that is important because the lower my income, the larger the subsidy towards my medical care, the ACA plan, which I plan to do starting next year. It also reduces our tax burden, which is part of lowering our overall expenses. I have some great advantages towards that. We're 100% debt-free. Our taxes are fairly low. We live in a smaller home and our property taxes are low. And so those things give us an advantage. So during this time frame, the lower our income, the higher the subsidy to help with medical. So three of my regrets relate to that particular thing, managing my income. First thing that I'd like to talk about is not opening a Roth sooner. Yes, I do have a Roth account. As you know, a Roth account, your money goes in, you've already paid taxes on it, it goes into the Roth, it grows tax-free, and when you take it out, it's also tax-free, and it doesn't count towards your income, which is pretty cool. Well, I do have a Roth. I opened a Roth within my 401k way back in 2010 when it first became available, and I put a small percentage in over these many years into that account. The bad thing is, within a 401k, a Roth is complicated. I found out that my Roth, the money I put in Roth, is in multiple accounts, and it's just complicated. I like to keep things simple. So about 3 years ago, I did open a separate Roth account, and I've been putting money into it, and that is great. Now that I'm no longer employed, I no longer qualify to add to that Roth. So that is a big regret. I wish I had opened a Roth account, a Roth IRA, separate from my 401k many years ago and had time for that to build up. Why? Well, then I would be able to take money out of that Roth whenever I wanted to keep my income lower to get that subsidy. Makes sense? So my advice to you is that if you do not have a Roth account, go ahead and open one now. You can do so for as little as $1. Get the account open, get the clock ticking. You have to have the account open for at least 5 years before you can start taking money out. And it's going to give you some options. It's going to give you that tax-free option to take money out. It's going to give you that 5-year clock ticking for when you maybe do some Roth conversions, something that I plan to do starting next year. And it keeps it simple. Outside your 401k, have that Roth. And I ran across this great podcast from the Retirement Answer guy, or Retirement Answer man. And in my description below, I'll have a link to that, which has a really terrific description about Roths and the benefits to it. So please click on that link. I have no affiliation with him. It's just fantastic information. You might like that a lot. So that is regret number 3. I'm going to go backwards. Regret number 2 is not maxing out an HSA account for a longer period of time. HSA is a health savings account. Not everyone has eligibility for it. You need to be on a very specific plan in your medical that allows HSA eligibility, so you'll want to check it out. But an HSA is a wonder of a tax strategy for retirement. Why is that? Well, you get a lot of benefits with an HSA. The money for your HSA goes in pre-tax, so you save on your overall taxes there. The money grows tax-free, which is fantastic. And then when you have qualified medical expenses before the age of 65, you can take that money out and tax-free and apply it towards that. The thing that most people do not do is invest. They don't realize that an HSA plan is very much like a 401k. Less than 20% of people that have an HSA make use of this benefit, invest their HSA funds in a mutual fund. I have done that, thankfully. Unfortunately, I didn't start maxing out my HSA until, about 3 years ago. So the overall balance is really, really low. Imagine if you are 10 years behind me and you open an HSA account and you max that out over multiple years. What a great medical fund that you are going to have once you early retire. Because medical is the greatest fear of people, or one of the probably top 2 or 3 things people talk about is, what are you going to do about medical? So I wish I had a much larger HSA account to have those medical concerns taken care of. An awesome feature about HSA also is that if you cover the expense yourself, you can save that receipt. And at any time in the future, if you want that money back, you turn it in and you can get paid back. Isn't that crazy? That is awesome. So imagine the 10 years leading up to your early retirement, you've had medical expenses you've never spent from your HSA account. You've only invested your HSA account, and maybe you want to do a little extra withdrawal. You can turn in that receipt and then get paid back. No taxes at all. Another thing that's really cool about HSA is that once you turn 65, you can use those HSA funds for anything you want. It's just like a deferred savings account. You have to pay income taxes if you're not using it for a medical expense, but it becomes basically another way to save towards retirement, much like your regular 401k or your deferred tax IRA. HSA, if you have access to one, open an HSA account and start maxing that out so that you have that cushion for your medical expenses, and you have that second retirement savings account for when you turn 65. So number 1, regret. I focused really strong on saving into the 401k, which I have no regrets about that. I did not realize until a couple years ago the tremendous tax advantage for long-term capital gains. Now, I've mentioned several times how I'm working hard to keep my income very low during this time period to qualify for subsidies, to have a lower tax rate. Did you know how incredibly beneficial and low the tax rate is for long-term capital gains? So I have it written down here. For a married couple filing jointly in 2024, if your income is less than $94,050, the long-term capital gains tax is 0. That's right. If you've held this account for more than a year, the stock or whatever, I'm a mutual fund guy, and you sell that, the portion of it that add a capital gains, if your income is less than about $94,000, married filing jointly, the taxes on that is 0. That is amazing. 0 taxes on it. And for me, my income, our actual income as a married couple, is going to be well below that $94,000 amount. So we are going to pay 0 taxes on the long-term capital gains of things that we sell, which we're going to do next year. Had I been aware of that years ago, I would have built more into our taxable account and let that build over more years, so that now for the next several years, I would have sold exclusively from those accounts to get to that 0 tax rate. If you're single, your income can be up to $47,025, and on that long-term capital gains, you'd have 0 taxes on it. There is a fantastic Choose 5 podcast where they talk about this 0 tax policy when it comes to long-term capital gains, and I'll also have a link to that down below so that you can get more in-depth knowledge. So those are the 3 regrets I have so far in our strategy preparing for early retirement. One is not opening a Roth IRA sooner and maxing that out separate from my 401k. I really wish I would have done that. Another thing is HSA. Not having that maxed out and filled for a longer period of time. Really, really wish I would have done that. And then the third thing is that long-term capital gains taxes. Understanding that. So critical. That's very different, your strategy in early retirement than a traditional retirement, because of how you want to manage your taxes and manage your income, maximize all those extra benefits you can get during this time. All right, so I promised you the 2 things that I did really well, because I hate talking about just regrets in these things, because I did a lot of things well, obviously. I don't regret saving into the 401k as aggressively as I did. Our primary way of saving all these years, or for me at least, was into the 401k. Starting shortly, I think a couple years after I started working, I did that first little thing and started saving in the 401k. And for me, that was terrific because that money was taken out. I never saw it, so I was never tempted to spend it. So I'm very thankful that I focused on saving within the 401k over these many, many years. The number 1 great thing I did was marry my wife, Michelle. She has been fantastic. She has been supportive. You know, I get a tax benefit being married jointly, but I'm telling you, if you marry the right person, if you get the right partner, it makes this journey so much better. Early retirement with her as my partner has been terrific. I do sit down with her once a month. We go over every single thing, and I make sure that she is fully involved and educated with it as well. But my point with that is find a great partner. Find someone who can be your life partner as you go out and early retire and do things, and it makes your life so much better. If you're single, I know there's a lot of people who follow this channel that are single as well. Go out and have robust friends, you know, a good social life so that you can have a rich life outside of just being at home. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching my channel. What regrets do you have along your financial path so far? Put those down in the comments. I'd love to hear about them. Now, as I talk about the HSA, the Roth, and long-term capital gains, what do you think about those? Are you doing that in your strategy? Are you working on an HSA? Were you aware of long-term capital gains? Leave a comment. Let's have some discussions. And of course, if you have any questions, leave those as well. Your questions help me determine future content. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Go out and have a fantastic day. Live your best life now. Don't wait.